11 bikers, including an undercover New York City police detective, now formally charged for their roles in the brutal beating of a New York City SUV driver after he was chased through the streets of Manhattan. Brian Yennis is live in our New York City newsroom now with more. Brian?
Hi, Arthel. Well, a grand jury in New York has found that there is enough evidence to move forward with officially charging 10 bikers and the undercover cop for their roles in the September 29th attack against SUV driver Alexian Leon. You'll remember the incident, recorded off of one of the bikers' helmets, showed Leon driving his Range Rover on the Henry Hudson Parkway with his wife and 2-year-old daughter when he was surrounded by a swarm of motorcyclists. That's when police say he bumped a biker that had slowed in front of his vehicle. Concerned for his safety, Alexian ran over one of the bikers, critically injuring him. That's when the biker group then followed him, attacked the SUV, dragged him out of the vehicle, and beat him as his family looked on. According to the 14-count indictment, 10 of the 11 bikers have been charged with gang assault, a felony, and the most serious of the charges. All of the bikers face charges of assault, corrosion, and riot. Others face additional charges of criminal mischief and criminal possession of a weapon. As for the undercover NYPD detective, Wojciech Brajak was charged with gang assault, criminal mischief, rioting, among other accounts. Brajak was off duty at the time, but police say he's caught on video participating in the attack, shattering the SUV's back window. Legal experts tell us motive will play a big part in the case.
What type of emotions were running for some of these bikers to, in a sense, maybe protect their fellow motorcyclists, and did it just get out of hand? Was it blown out of proportion? Should the victim have stopped at some point in time? Was his fear reasonable?
Those are the questions. Depending on their criminal records, if convicted, all of the men face 5 to 25 years in prison. Arthel.
Brian Yennis, thanks so much, Brian.
Let's bring in our legal panel now to talk about it. Bob Massey is a Fox News legal analyst. Rachel Self is a trial attorney. Good to see you both. Bob,
Yes, sir.
The detective was allegedly deep undercover. Is that in some way, in a court of law, an excuse or an exculpatory circumstances for him?
I don't believe in this circumstance it is, Greg, because when you look at the video where a picture's worth 1,000 words, if anybody should be held to a different standard of understanding as to what is right and wrong legally, he surely should understand that. So I don't see anything, at least at this point on its face, where he should be excused from any of these types of actions.
Bob, those guys are taught
criminally.
never to give up their identity, and sometimes that means being involved in things. Is that an extenuating circumstance?
I mean, I don't think that from the perspective that just because of the fact that he doesn't have to give up his identity, that necessarily says you're absolved from the actions that he's taken.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, he has to be a reasonable person that's going to act in a reasonable fashion to try to get this thing more under the control than out of control.
And Rachel, the other problem for the detective is, the fact is, Bob points out, he's seen on camera allegedly shattering the back of the SUV window. I mean, he's participating actively and willing in this thing. And the other thing is, he didn't come forward right away and tell his superiors what he did.
No, there are so many things wrong with what this police officer did, and everybody seems to be forgetting that the fact that he's undercover, as far as I'm concerned, is largely irrelevant because he wasn't undercover in this particular motorcycle gang. He was off duty. This was a social weekend for him. There were apparently 4 other police officers in this gang involved in this thing. That's just come to light. And you've got them chasing down this man, terrifying him, and then apparently the reason that he runs over is because he was in fear for himself and his family, and runs over somebody that was blocking him, trying to assault him. So I think this whole thing, something doesn't smell right, and I think that he was charged rightly, and I think that he's going to go down for this.
Christopher Cruz is seen on the videotape, Bob, slowing down, getting rear-ended, and he's accused of stopping short in traffic on purpose. He's the guy who instigated the whole thing. And he's looking at felony criminal mischief, 4 years behind bars. Is he more culpable in many ways because he's the guy who set all of these terrible events in motion?
You know, Greg, I have to tell you that when you look at it, obviously he is the catalyst. He's the one, because he slowed down, changed lanes, the Range Rover hits it from behind. The question then becomes, was the rest of this excessive testosterone that we saw happen, was that sort of the reaction overstated? Of course it was. I mean, at that point in time, the fact that it happened, what you had is a bunch of guys together that took this as a personal affront, decided, you know, to gang up. And when you look at that video and how frightening this family must have been and how long it went on, as Rachel said, you know, when we were talking a little bit, the timeline on this is very important to watch.
Yeah,
how long they
timeline's gonna be
chase it. So
critical.
although, yes, he was the initial catalyst, when you look at the overreaction by it, these are a bunch of guys that really, really overextended
Rachel,
what should have happened here.
The driver who was, you know, just horribly dragged out of his car in front of his frightened wife and young child, you know, he ended up at one point in time running over one of the bikers. He was trying to flee. Should he be charged in the case? He hasn't been charged yet.
No.
Or is
No.
flight from imminent fear of serious bodily injury or death complete justification for his actions?
It is justification for it, and at that point in time, and this is why I think the timeline is so critical here. At that point in time, he was under the impression that he was about to become the victim, or was being the victim, of an assault and potential battery. They had surrounded his car, and I mean, if you just can imagine it, you know, wife is going, "Oh my God, get us out of here! Let's go, go, go!" And he just goes. He's got a 2-year-old in the back that he's trying to protect. He's in fight or flight mode, and he decides to flee. And if he negligently ran over the person in front of his car, he'd be totally absolved under New York law. And in fact, it's coming out that this guy might have been one of the assailants. He's going to be just fine, if anything. You know, and fleeing the scene, there's nothing to indicate that he actually was fleeing
Bob,
the
the
scene.
guy
He
who
was
got
trying
run
to protect
over
himself.
and he was badly injured, I mean, he put himself in that situation in front of the car. That's contributory negligence on the part of him, right?
100%. It's foreseeable that somebody that would do that, and then ultimately this family's in fear of impending harm. You know, it's foreseeable that, hey, you're going to get out of there. Exactly what she said. Let's get out of here. They were scared to death. You know, I was thinking, Greg, this morning when I was reading about this, you wonder, it's a good thing that this man in a Range Rover didn't have a gun, because this could be a whole different kind of story.
Oh, yeah.
Because again, he is in fear for his family.
Sure.
And the consequence of running over that guy, too bad, pal. Too bad.
Yeah, put himself in that situation. Bob Massey,
Absolutely,
Rachel Self,
he did.
thank you both for being with us. Good to see you.
Thank you. Great
Thanks,
to see
Greg.
you both.
Good story. Thank you.